Sometimes, the hardest choice in love is not choosing between two people, but understanding what kind of love your heart truly needs. Lena had always dreamed of a love that felt like a beautiful song, loud, passionate, impossible to ignore. At 26, she believed she had finally found it in Adrian. Adrian was expressive. He remembered every little detail about her. He sent flowers to her office, wrote long messages late at night, and never hesitated to tell her how beautiful she was. When Lena was sad, he held her close and promised that he would always be there. Then there was Daniel. Daniel was different. He rarely sent romantic messages. He did not surprise Lena with expensive gifts or make grand declarations. But somehow, he always noticed the things nobody else did. When Lena worked late, Daniel quietly left a warm meal outside her apartment. When rain began during her walk home, he appeared with an umbrella without being asked. When she mentioned once that her old mother needed medicine, Daniel remembered the name weeks later. Lena was confused. Adrian made her heart race. Daniel made her heart feel safe. One evening, Lena sat beside the river, watching the city lights tremble across the water. Adrian had just called her, telling her how much he loved her. Minutes later, Daniel sent only one message. "Did you get home safely?" Lena stared at both messages. One made her smile, the other made her pause. She wondered if love was supposed to feel exciting or peaceful. The answer became clearer one winter evening. Lena had planned to meet Adrian for dinner. She dressed carefully, carrying a small gift she had bought for him. But as she stepped outside, she slipped on the icy pavement and hurt her ankle. She called Adrian. He answered quickly. "Lena, I'm really sorry. I'm already late for an important event. Can you take a taxi to the hospital?" Before she could answer, the call ended. Lena sat alone in the cold, trying not to cry. Then, 10 minutes later, Daniel appeared. He had seen her missed call. He did not ask what happened. He simply knelt beside her, wrapped his scarf around her shoulders, and carefully helped her stand. At the hospital, Daniel stayed beside her through the entire night. He never said, "I told you so." He never asked for anything in return. He simply stayed. That night, Lena discovered something unexpected. Daniel had never been silent because he did not love her. He had been silent because he believed love was something you showed, not something you repeatedly announced. Weeks passed. Lena began noticing all the invisible ways Daniel cared for her. He listened when she spoke. He remembered her fears. He celebrated her smallest victories. He gave her space when she needed it and stood beside her when she needed strength. Adrian still loved Lena passionately, but Lena slowly understood that passion alone could not carry a relationship through every difficult day. One afternoon, she met Adrian beside the same river. "I do love you," Lena said softly, "but I have learned that being loved loudly is not always the same as being loved deeply." Adrian looked at her for a long moment, then he smiled sadly. "Maybe you were never looking for someone who could say love better," he whispered. "Maybe you were looking for someone who could live it." Lena's eyes filled with tears. She realized her heart had already chosen. She found Daniel at the small cafe where he often worked quietly by the window. Lena sat across from him. "You know," she said, smiling through her tears, "you were always terrible at saying romantic things." Daniel laughed softly. "I know, but somehow," Lena continued, "you were always the best at making me feel loved." Daniel looked at her, surprised. For the first time, Lena reached across the table and held his hand. "I choose you." Outside, rain began falling gently against the cafe windows. Daniel did not make a grand speech. He simply squeezed her hand, and somehow that small gesture said everything. Lena finally understood that love is not measured by how loudly someone says, "I love you." It is measured by how gently they care for your heart when life becomes difficult. Some people bring fireworks. Others bring a blanket when you are cold. And sometimes, the quieter love is the one that stays after the fireworks disappear. Because real love is not always the person who makes your heart race. Sometimes, it is the person who makes your heart feel at home.
This has been Fable Breeze, where nature whispers and stories remind you who you are.